just a brief introduction of who we are. So we are a premium quality and an innovative LED lighting company. We've been around for about 13 years, and we've evolved and configured ourselves to be providing quality, commercial, and custom lighting for a lot of applications which are commercial and residential. We are also, for the past year and a half, been working on EV chargers and designing and perfecting the designs. We are a woman and a minority-owned enterprise, and we are located in Kansas and in Houston. I have with me our other principal, Mehdi Tobani, out of Houston. This presentation is a team effort, so I would like to shout out to all our team, particularly the marketing team, for creating this for us. This also is a partnership with a company that we love and have been working with over the past several months, which is the other component of the EV charger, which is the software and the networking side. So I'm going to let Tony talk about Stay and Charge. Tony?
We're excited to be a part of this. Thank you for the introduction. I'm Tony Booth. I'm the founder and CEO of Stay and Charge. We are a network operator and software company designed for EV charging. We started about 3 years ago working on this project of trying to get out and build a reliable and robust set of software that can manage the chargers and provide our clients with the support they need and the back end they need to do the things they want. And we're super excited about being a partnership in here with Saren and helping this EV infrastructure get built out.
Thank you, Tony. We'll hear more from Tony about the details about the services that they bring to the table in terms of a full integration solution. What we're going to cover today very briefly is we're going to just cover the basics of EV, some historical context, and then we'll dive into the products and the partnerships such as Stay and Charge. And we will probably try to convince you as to why you should be picking us over any of our competitors. Hopefully, we make a compelling argument for that, and then we'll wrap up our webinar and then sort of allow for questions towards the end. So in order to understand where we are today, which is at an inflection point, which is going to be bringing about a massive change in the infrastructure and the network around EV charging, we have to understand the historical context. And as we were researching this, we were very surprised to find that EVs are much older than what we thought they were. So the first EV, which is not necessarily a full-blown EV, but an EV that was connected to the wires, were actually around in 1832, but mostly for demo purposes, not really for transportation, really. And then it slowly sort of, there was development of EV batteries in the early 1900s, which allowed for EV cars to come about. And in fact, around early 1900s, there were almost 30,000 EV cars in New York. 1 in 3 cars in New York was an EV. And then something very strange happened, which is the development of Model T, which was, as you know, it's a combustion engine car. And slowly that became more affordable to where you could buy a Model T around $300, which was way less than the electric cars at the time. And it basically put the EV agenda on the sideline simply because of the economics of where they were. In terms of the development of EV, a lot of that kind of died down. Most of the car makers who were doing EV either converted to being combustion engine or basically went out of business. gasoline post or sorry, pre-World War II was quite inexpensive, and that simply basically was the driver of moving towards the combustion engine rather than the EV car. For example, if the second picture that you see, the Electrovare 2 in 1964, the batteries in there were only good for 100 sort of recycling, 100 times that you can recharge. And it cost in 1964 $160,000. So you can imagine the expensive sort of nature of the EV development structure then, compared to the Model T, or back then you had a lot of combustion engine, which was much cheaper. Moving forward to 1996, when California sort of mandated some sort of a zero emission vehicle, where some car makers developed some EV cars. The first one being, you can see the GM EV1. They're not really meant to be sold in mass, probably to meet the mandate. They didn't sell as many simply because of the range that were available and the pricing at that time. Fast forward that to the 21st century, where we got the introductions and the development of lithium-ion batteries, where we see the first the Roadstar, Tesla Roadstar, with the good, I believe it was a 200+ mile range that they got introduced in 2008. And then we had other car makers like the Chevy Spark and the Nissan Leaf that sold over 300,000 unit, which was a production car, EV production car. And then we get into the 17 time frame, where the development in lithium-ion batteries had addressed some of the range anxiety need that were there by sort of putting out the first 300+ mile range car in 2017, which was the Model S, also almost on a luxury side of the cars. And then talking about luxury, in early part of this decade, we saw Lucid come out with a luxury option of EV, which really addressed the range anxiety of with providing a range of about 500 miles or so in one charge. And then now what we're seeing is a wave of car makers that are developing some of their sports cars and pickup trucks and all that, getting into the EV world. So we've come a full circle where EVs were introduced, but because of the pricing and gasoline being cheap, and back then in the early 1900s, the combustion engine kind of took the EV out of the market. And then now in this part of our time, we are seeing the reverse happening, where the EVs are pushing out the combustion engine cars. You see other countries such as China introducing ultra cheap EV cars with a good range, and I think you see the Tesla pricing going down. I think that's going to continue, in my opinion, where EVs are going to be much more affordable, not only to own but also to buy. So where does that leave us? That leaves us at a very good juncture where Sarin comes in with a infrastructure need that is going to be booming. And let me show you some very quick projections that we've seen in the industry. For example, by 2035, there'll be 350 million EVs in the world. By 2030, 86% of what will be sold will be EVs. Other countries have taken EVs to heart, and they are actually moving at a faster rate than we are. Last year was supposed to be a slow year for the US for EV sales, kind of, where people are saying it's slowing down, but it still grew by 50%. I'll still take that slow year any day in terms of any growth market. And then a lot of car manufacturers in the United States have committed to producing a lot of their models in the EV with the EV technology. If you look at the US alone, for example, if you look at the forecast, in the US, almost by 2030, almost 30% of the cars that will be sold in the US will be EV by 2030, and going all the way up to almost 4 million cars a year. So that is a strong, strong forecast, and we've seen that happen in whenever there's an adoption of a new technology. You have an early adopter, then you have people who wait, and when the technology has proven itself, which is the phase we are in, there will be a strong demand going forward for that new technology. So we are quite excited at being at the precipice of this big change that is coming up. The EV infrastructure is the key component in making sure that the EV program is a success. So while there are still cars which are 300 plus mile range, 500 plus mile range, the infrastructure is still lagging behind. And this is where we come in with what we have to offer. And we'll talk a little bit about the product. So we're quite excited to partner with all of you here on the call to see how we can push this agenda forward and make the Sarin EV chargers, along with Stay in Charge software and networking capacity, to sort of make that available to a host of customers that may be needing this. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jim, who's going to talk a little bit about our products. Just a brief introduction: Jim McDonald is our leader at Sarin. He's been developing this program for us, working with a lot of partners and getting us approved for rebates, etc. So Jim, take it away, my friend. Jim, I don't think you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you, and I appreciate that explanation. And looking at those old cars, that Silver Bullet reminds me of the first car I drove in high school, and I hate to admit that, but that's how far back it goes. I'm very excited about this program, people. I can't believe the time has finally come that we get to introduce the webinar to you. When I first came on board here last February, it just seemed like it just was never going to happen. And finally, we get to roll this out to you. It's exciting. It's been a thrill ride for me. Are we all the way there yet? Absolutely not. But I think we're at a point where it's time to get it out there. It's time to start looking for opportunities, because I can tell you the opportunities are starting to come look for us. And I can tell you firsthand that that's happening. So we'll move on there. And our EV chargers, I can tell you, are gaining some attention in the marketplace. I'm getting emails on a daily basis from people that are saying, hey, I'd like you to get some more information on your EV chargers. What you see there on the screen are renderings of the new models that we're coming out with on the top portion of the screen there. Those are our level 3 chargers. You can see on the side over here, that is the credit card processor that is going to be integrated into our charger sometime in the first quarter. We'll have an option of a big screen if that's so desired. And down here in the bottom is a new product that we're going to be announcing. This is actually a level 2 charger with dual ports. The one that we have currently is just a single port charger, which you'll see a picture of that, and we'll get more into that. But I can just tell you that the way things are going with the manufacturing that we're doing, we're always improving and getting better. With our level 2 chargers, this is a very busy slide here, so I'll try to move through it quickly. But when you're going out in the field and talking to people, just keep in mind, level 2 chargers, those are for people that are going to be spending time in places where it's significant amount of time that they're going to be spending. If it's shopping centers, hotels overnight, where they can stop and plug in their car for 6 to 8 hours, whereas with the level, and right now we've got 11.5 kilowatt. That's the output that the charger gives to the vehicle. We can also pare that down to a slower amperage if we need to. That's something that's available. On the level 3 chargers, we've got 120 kilowatt, 240 kilowatt, 300 kilowatt chargers. And again, these are for the convenience stores, the gas stations, restaurants where people are not going to spend a lot of time. They want to charge up their vehicles in a short period. And obviously, these charging stations are much more expensive. And then with our partner Stay in Charge and Tony's company, we're a true turnkey operation. We're here to offer 24/7, 365 support, maintenance, and call center. And I won't go too much into that, but so I think some of the, on the right-hand side there, you see some of the important things when you get into responding to an RFP, or people are asking that are knowledgeable about the industry. They'll start asking you, are you Energy Star certified? Well, guess what? Yes, we are. Are you ETL listed? Yes, we are. Are we UL listed? Yes, we are. We have OCPP. That is the common language between chargers, and our chargers are capable. They have that built into them. In fact, the next iteration of OCPP is going to be 2.0.1, and we will have that built into our chargers. We'll be compliant with that in the first quarter of January 24. Like I said earlier, we'll have the credit card reader in the first quarter. And again, I think some of the differentiators for us, we're going to have an industry-leading lead time, 90-day time. And again, I won't get into everything here, but we're going to have great visibility for people that are on the road. And as far as connectors on the chargers, we're going to have the CCS standard. And that's about it. Let me move on from there. And I will have different options as far as what they can connect with. And if you have questions afterward, be happy to answer them. When you talk about level 2, again, I just kind of covered this, but you're looking for places where people are going to spend more time. That's hotels. That's maybe retail centers. If you've got somebody like my wife, they like to spend a lot of time shopping. So you're and again, this is the charging station I was talking about. That is a single connector. Where over here is the newer one, where you've got the dual port connector. These are much more affordable chargers. This is where I think you're going to see in multifamily apartment complexes, you're going to see a lot more volume from this type of unit than you are going to see from the level 3s. These are affordable. They're not that expensive. And you're going to see, the other thing I like to tell people is, if you're working with a multifamily and they say, hey, we only need 4, and that's fine. They're only going to need 4 today, but guess what? That's going to be a recurring customer for you, because as Anaya pointed out earlier, that may be 4 today, but 5 years from now, they're probably going to need 10. And then the next couple of years, they're going to need 20 more, because as we're converting to EVs, that parking lot is going to be converting over to charging stations as well. Next slide, please. Next slide. And then again, with level 3, this is designed more for along the highways and interstates, as well as gas stations, convenience stores. This is where we're using these to respond to you've probably heard about the NEVI program that's out there, where you have to have a minimum of 150 kilowatt output out of each one of these connectors. We've got the 300 kilowatt that meets those needs. But again, you can get a charge out of one of these anywhere from 45 minutes down to 20 minutes or less. So it's a very fast machine. There's a lot of requirements. There's a lot of expense that goes into putting one of these in, but there are quite a bit of rebates that are available out there, both from the federal government as well as from the utility companies. And speaking of rebates, again, this is something where we can work with you individually to talk about what you have in your states. I have a tool that lets me take a look at every state, and every state is different. Some states are better than others. I can tell you in Kansas and Missouri, it's not too bad. You can get up to $40,000 per site on a level 3 fast charger. In Kansas, it might pay up to 100% of the project, or $40,000 per site. whichever is less. In Missouri, it'd pay 40% of the project or 40% of the site, as long as it's 2 fast chargers. And then there's a construction allowance that if the utility company needs to bring in additional power or additional lines, there's $27,000 that's available to the utility company. So again, this is just a slide to kind of show you that I can work with you and tell you what's available in each site. They're in every site, every state is different. Okay, and did you want to add something? Okay.
No, no, Jim, I think you did great. And the rebates are not the only thing that are being sort of financed or subsidized by the government. There's what Jim referred to as NEVI grants, which pay up to 80% of all of the level 3 cost, which could be substantial.
Right.
And on top of that, you do have federal tax credits, 30% of the invoice amount, or up to $100,000 per location that goes to the buyer of these EVs. Then you have an accelerated depreciation that you can also take, which was 80% in this year, and it goes down to 60%, which is still substantial in terms of the financial. So this is, again, reminds me of the days that when LEDs were introduced a little over a decade ago, where a lot of benefits and rebates, etc., were introduced by the government for the adoption of the new technology. And this, again, is the same process as the government incentivizes adoption of new technology. So a lot of your customers, or you may have a question saying, what is my return on investment of these things? Because these things, for example, level 3s can get quite expensive. So for example, let's look at the math behind level 2. So typically, people put in more than one port. Typically, they have 3 or 4 ports. So the math that we've done here is for 4 ports. Let's assume that there's only 1 session per day, which means there's only 1 car that charges per day per port. And our software allows you to, and Tony will talk a little bit more about that, to provide or to set pricing for the rates. The sell prices ranges anywhere from 35 cents a kilowatt hour to 50 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on what part of the country you're in, what are the demands, etc. And the cost is around, at least in the Midwest, is 8 cents a kilowatt hour. And if you go on the coast on each side, that would be substantially more. But let's say there's a 7-hour charge for per port, which means 1 car charging per port per day. You can see the math that a conservative math where we took 10 kilowatt per hour sort of charge. Your annual revenue for the 4 ports would be around $39,000. We have 2 models that we offer in terms of the ownership, where the 50% is revenue shared between us and the owner, or 90% the owner keeps, and 10% is what we keep. In terms of the operational cost, you see the energy cost and the host and maintenance cost that you see. For the 50%, if we take 50% of your revenue, then we take over the host and maintenance. And then if you choose the other option where you keep 90%, then you pay a nominal maintenance and hosting fee for annual fee there. But at the bottom, what you see is a potential income from both options for 4 level 2 ports. And again, these are sort of conservative estimates, and it may depend on the location that you are in and the demand that you have in your area. We do the same math, which is with much bigger numbers here, with level 3 using a 240 kilowatt machine, which means it's pumping out 120 kilowatts from each of the nozzles, because there are 2 nozzles there. Again, we use the same math, and I'm not going to belabor the point here, but you can see at the very bottom, the annual profit going to the customers is substantial. And this is assuming 2 hours of charge per day per port. So it is not substantial overall, but it could be a good sort of a if you have the traction and if you have the right clientele, it would be a good profit center for those who are installing this. I'm going to let Jim talk to you about the process. So let's suppose there is a customer that is interested in EV. What should you do next? We just wanted to highlight the steps. Don't get overwhelmed by the number of steps, because majority of these steps are done by us. We just want to inform you as to what they are. Basically, you and your customers only have to do the maybe 1 or 2 steps in this entire process. But just so that you understand and you can explain that to your customers, what is the process? Jim, can you take over, buddy?
I can. Thanks. Yeah, and I think this is, I want to say right up front that this is a living document, and this will tweak and change over time. And I would tell you, as someone asked me, last week, okay, what happens? Somebody told me they like what we have, they want to buy, now what? Okay. Well, first of all, we have agreements that we have put together. We have engagement letters, we have addendums, we have a contact information sheet, we have contracts. So all of the legal proper paperwork, if you will, is going to be available to you. So we'll share that once you're ready for it. Then when the customer says, yes, I'm ready to move forward, that's kind of what I would say, just the first step in the process. Number one there, that they have engaged with you. Then what you would want to do is you would want to reach out to our engagement project management team. That would be me. And what I'll do is I'll turn around and I'll contact, depending on where you're at, I'll contact Tony and his team. And depending on the scope of the project, what we'll need to do is we will need to get what's called, if you see it there at the bottom in number 2, a make-ready estimate. And that may involve that'll obviously involve pulling in electricians. It may involve pulling in the utility company. It may involve pulling in additional resources to take a look at the site and determine exactly what it's going to take to put in the equipment. Because it's one thing to give them a proposal for what our hardware and Tony's software and Tony's maintenance programs cost. We know what those are up front, but what we don't know, and every location is going to be different, is what we're going to encounter at their location. And I've done quite a few of these, and not nearly as many as our partner has, as everyone is going to be different. There's going to be different challenges, and we need to set those expectations with the customer that once we provide this estimate to you, it's not really a done deal until the customer signs off on that make-ready estimate, because that could vary widely depending on what it is we have to do. Okay, once they sign that document, then we start, and this is where it's more internal to us. The customer has to begin the rebate application. They must do that themselves, and we'll coach them. We have documentation on how they do that, depending on where they're at. But then the rest of it is primarily us, as Anayat says. We need to do, if there's a new meter that's required, the utility provider providing estimates. And I don't think I need to go through the rest of them, but this is internal to our project management team. This is internal to the electrician, the utility companies. And once we get everything set up between Sarin Energy and Stay in Charge. Okay. Then on to the next slide, the partnerships at Saren and Stay in Charge. And then the very next slide, I wanted to add something else before we jump into Stay in Charge. I wanted to talk a little bit about the partnerships that we have in addition to Stay in Charge. We've developed partnerships with quite a few different utility companies around the country. And many of these utility companies require, if you want to be eligible for their rebates, you have to get on their approved vendor list. We've done that in the state of Missouri, in the state of Kansas. We've done it all up and down, for the most part, the East Coast, along the South, throughout the Midwest. I mean, there's isolated pockets where some of the utility companies are trying to create their own little fiefdom, if you will, that you can't really break through. And again, there's others that we're still working on and waiting for approval on, like NYSERDA and Eversource. So this is something that we continue to work on. But I would also tell you, wherever you're located, if you have utility companies, to reach out to them, try to find out who is responsible for their EV charging programs. The other organization I would recommend that you look at and try to find a contact is every major metropolitan area has a Clean Cities organization, and they are tied into the EV sustainability programs very closely, and grant monies, and a lot of different activities. So reach out, find out who it is. If you need help, be happy to help you. But from that, those are a lot of different partnerships that we've established. And then I will turn it over to Mr. Tony Booth.
Thank you, Jim. So as was mentioned here, we Stay in Charge, as I said in the beginning, was built to come into this EV charging market as it grew. When we built it, and what I want to touch on today, just for everybody, I kind of leave it at a little bit of a high level, but understand where we're different than everybody else. So what we've done a little bit different from day one was set out to make sure we had flexibility. So as Jim talked about the chargers and the things you look at there is all types of chargers out there, from those level 2s to the level 3s, from sizes. Also, there's a lot of flexibility in how you control access, how you control fees, and things like that. So with our partnership here, we have the ability to solve many different problems, and we're not trying to put a single solution out there. Many of the EV companies that have been around for years, that's their model. They have a single charger or two types. That's all they have. They have a single charger, a single software package, and a single maintenance package. What we wanted to do, because different properties are going to need different things. Some of them are going to have a great deal of activity, some of them not so much, but they're going to. So we've developed our software and everything around it, so we have flexibility in what we provide to the customer. So we have software packages that can just do the basics and control access, up to ones that can do power management and everything else. So when you look at that, that's the first side. We have a full flexibility. The other thing that we set out to become is a single source, one call solution. So that's why we have such a tight partnership with Saren. We know that when there's a problem in the future, we're not pointing the finger at the hardware, or the hardware people pointing the finger at the software, or the electrician saying it's got nothing to do with us, or, it's all solved by us internally, so that you're not putting something out there that a customer has a problem a year from now and they're getting the runaround by saying, one person telling them to call the manufacturer, the other one saying, call the software tech desk. That's not the way our program works. Our program works that Stay in Charge is a single call solution. And if it's something that's with the hardware or the charger, then we're going to pick up the phone and we're going to reach out to Saren and say, hey, we've got a charger with this problem. We need some parts. We need to fix it. So that's a big part that was a problem in the industry, that people were pointing fingers. So we solved that problem. And then the last part that we do is we do what we call, charging done for your customer. Like, we do not require them to learn new things. They don't have to learn the software. They don't have to learn how to manage an EV charging solution. We do that all for them. They just pick up the phone and call us. In fact, most of our customers that we have today that are on our network, probably 80% of them have never even logged into the platform. They just sit back. We send them a report every month with all the usage along with their check. So they're just sitting back, getting paid, and not worrying about it. Anybody that pulls up to our stations, they have a number, they call us directly. We take care of all that to make sure that that guest is taken care of, that user is taken care of, and we get them charging. So those are the kind of the key things that we do differently. When it comes to the actual back end software, the stuff there, software is built for large networks. It's built for multiple hosts. It's built to cover wherever we want to go with it. From the ground up. It's got the foundation to expand. It's one thing Jim talked about, some of the upcoming stuff with the OCPP. We're already OCPP 2.0 ready. One big thing that's coming that we've already been working on is ISO 15118, which is going to be a very big game changer in that that's where we get into vehicle to grid, sharing energy back to the grid. And it's also where we get into the simplicity of plugging your car in and your car and the network communicating with each other. And that is something that we are ready for, and we will be one of the leaders on the software side of getting that implemented because of the importance of that. We feel that that's where we're going to set ourselves apart. And one last piece that we're working on that is very big as well is that we're an open API network, and we're working on integration. So we can work with people if you've got a commercial customer maybe that has a bunch of employees and they want their employee badges to operate the chargers. We can work on that connectivity. We're working on property management systems at hotels where the guests can put the charges on their guest folio. So there's a lot of things we're doing on the software side that are going to allow us to keep, I would say right now we're in the top of the software with the features we have, and we're going to keep driving to be better. And the level of service will be second to none.
Thank you, Tony. Really have enjoyed our partnership, and we're going to continue to enjoy this partnership as we move and develop further to be the industry leader. Jim, we have a few minutes to cover this section. So if you can perhaps go through this a little quicker so we can have time for questions.
Okay. I will just jump on Tony's bandwagon there a little bit on the future proofing then, and where he was mentioning the ISO 15118. Where he was saying that they are going to be ready. We, as well as a hardware manufacturer, also will be ready. As far as the plug-in charge, we will be ready probably third quarter of next year. But as far as the ISO 15118, the vehicle to grid, will be ready with that first quarter of this coming year. And as far as OCPP 2.0.1, I think I mentioned that earlier, that is going to be ready. We'll be ready with that first quarter of this year. So those are big enhancements. That gives a lot more flexibility and control. So that's something these people out there are looking for. The other things that we offer out there, you've seen that if you've worked with Saren Energy before, that all goes along with it. Tony's already talked about software customization. And again, I've talked about complete turnkey. And then I'd also dovetail on what Tony said about the employee badge. It was so interesting. I got a call yesterday from a prospect that said, "Hey, we're interested in your chargers. I've got a customer that wants to put these in their parking lot. And can you guys provide us with RFID cards that they put in their pockets and pull out of their wallets?" I said, do they have employee badges? He said, "Yeah." And I said, "What if we just program those?" He says, "That is so cool." He said, "That might just get you the deal." So there you have it. Thanks. Next slide. Service after the sale, Tony, I think this might be both of us, but I'll let you start. I mean, we provide the warranties, obviously. I think if you've worked with us before, I think we do a pretty good job of honoring warranties.
Yeah.
I think Tony may have gotten cut off. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide, Jim.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we are the smart choice because of everything we've already said. The other things that we really haven't touched on that I would mention that we will have product availability that is going to be better than most. You'll find in the industry that when we've been responding to some of the RFPs we've been doing with some comparing us to some of the bigger competitors, some of their lead times. And I know some of you have also seen this could be sometimes 9 months to 12 months out. So we're going to have a much quicker turnaround time than that. And we even may get to a point where we're stocking inventory, but right now it's like a 90-day turnaround for us. And I think you will very much find when you start to price these units out that they are very, very cost competitive in comparison to the other chargers that are out there. And then the flexible solutions that Tony touched on, we've touched on, we can find a solution and make it fit, just like Tony was talking about with the employee badges. So give us a chance. And then what to expect. You know, it's interesting when I was looking over this slide earlier, it's almost like this is almost out of date when you talk about the vehicle to grid and plug and charge. You don't really need the mobile apps anymore. When the vehicle grid comes to charge, you won't need a credit card machine on there because once you plug in, the charger will recognize your vehicle. You may even have a charge underneath the car. So there's just a lot of things that we're planning on as the future proofing. It's just such a cool industry to be in right now, and everybody's excited about it. So just get on board with us. This is an exciting time, people. We offer a solution, and this is a team with Tony, Stay in Charge, Saren Energy, and all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Tony. I think we lost Tony somewhere. I don't know where he is. He's always
I can tell you what Tony's doing. Tony he's driving up to the East Coast. He's from Georgia. He's driving up to New Jersey to assist in an installation, and he's leaving now because they're expecting a snowstorm up there.
Ah, okay, that explains. So you can see the numbers to call or the emails to call, but I think we have some questions here on our chat box. And this is the time, folks, I'm going to allow you guys to unmute yourself. So you can speak up if you don't want to type. The first question that we had was, is there a residential unit? So the level 2 that we call it is almost a residential unit. You need a 220 line if you're putting it into your car. I have a Tesla and I use a level 2. You need a 220 line. But it's going to be even less expensive than the level 2 that we have made for commercial grade because it doesn't need any software integration, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we call a dumb charger in the sense that you just plug it in and it charges. So that's going to be even less expensive, and we will have the capacity to bring those in. We already developed that, and et cetera, et cetera. But our focus has been on the commercial side, not so much as the residential side. Can we service the residential? Absolutely. Okay, any other questions or comments or thoughts? You can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Hopefully you're ready for lots of calls. I'm going to get this in front of every architect I know. I think it's got to start specification. I invited 300 EDs today and not a soul had even replied to the emails. So they don't know what they're missing yet.
Good.
No, it's going to be, I'm going to give you an example. When we got into this, when we started our company about 13 years ago, I used to go to Home Depot and Lowe's. And if you remember 13 years ago or 10 years ago, you would go onto an aisle for lighting and you'd have a small section of LEDs and everything else was fluorescent and incandescent. 5 years fast forward, and it's a complete reversal of that. Now you go try to find an incandescent or fluorescent, you'll have to look somewhere. I think we are in that particular state right now for EVs. We are at that cusp of shift that we are, a titanic shift that we are looking at. So we will see that coming at us fast and furious, especially when every day or every week or every month I see some more reservoir of lithium being found in this country or that country. I think what that is telling us is that it's going to bring down the pricing.
How many are there?
Okay, we're going to have to unmute that individual there. Sorry about that. But it's just it's a foregone conclusion. In the next 5 years, when we are on the same table, EV is going to be a foregone conclusion, like LED is a foregone conclusion with vis-a-vis fluorescent. So be ready. Any other questions, thoughts? Are you guys hearing, or have your customers been asking about EVs?
Tonight, there's a question there.
No, I don't. I think that's Matt.
Yeah, what's your position with national accounts?
So, so for national accounts, in terms of EVs, we don't have any national accounts as such right now.
Okay, are you going to cater to that? Are you going to hire the national account team, or what's your thought?
So, Craig, I think what we've done with our LED line, if there are national accounts that are brought to the table, obviously we honor those. So long as when we are going into other reps territory, we have to clear that and make sure that that is okay. But obviously, we would like to work with those national accounts. I hope I'm answering it correctly.
Yeah, no. It's how are we competitive with the products that a Wawa's putting in?
Yeah, very, very competitive.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because
we're starting to see it happening, and that's why I ask how can we as lighting guys get in there with chargers, not into Wawa necessarily, because they've probably got a pretty big national account set up already that's happening everywhere, but to other places, even 7-Elevens and everything else. So it's starting to become very strong business.
Yeah, that's a good point, Craig. I think while there are some early adopters in those national accounts, not everyone's caught up. There are some laggards, and we can certainly hone in on those laggards, especially when it comes to competitive nature of what we have to offer, not just in terms of pricing, but the solution itself. Where we started and where we are being very successful at is catering to our existing clientele. So we have a lot of hotels that we serve. It's a very complementary products. A lot of brands are requiring it now, and slowly will require more and more. We've worked with convenience stores in the past. We've worked with the restaurants and shopping centers in the past. I think it's just maybe asking the question, hey, are you guys looking into this? Most likely, more than 50% chance the client will tell you yes, because that's where the trends are sort of emerging. They may not know that you have this offering, and they may not even ask you. So oftentimes we initiate that conversation, and then it leads to a lot more.
Gotcha. So for the guys that are new to this, which I am too, it's the independent opportunity, the colleges, the universities, the private schools. It could be anything like that. It doesn't have
and Craig, also the opportunity for a private developer to turn revenue off of this. You don't see as much of that. That's not as prolific as, say, like the Tesla superchargers that are out there everywhere now. Like, this opportunity for somebody to make money by installing this is something that's not as, that's not as far along as some of the other infrastructure you see out there.
Gotcha. So this could go into our multifamily opportunities too, pretty good.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Absolutely. And it could be like Cody mentioned, it could be a revenue stream for them. You're not giving it away for free.
Right. Okay, good.
Any other questions? And then Terry, you're right. Multifamilies are and hospitalities are key customers for all our level twos, level two chargers. And we have the economical one with the single port that you saw on a pedestal. And then we also have almost like a gas pump looking level two. It looks a little pretty, has two ports, and that's a little bit on the higher side compared to the pricing of the other one. Most of the time, what we see installed in apartments and multifamilies are the pedestal ones, the less expensive ones.
So what is the price tonight of like the level 2 and level 3 chargers?
Sorry, Terry, I couldn't hear you very well.
I said, what is the price of the level 2 and level 3 chargers?
Yeah, so we're going to be releasing the pricing here soon to you guys through John Villacortez and all that, because we will have the rep pricing and then the MSRP. So we'll be sending out an email with those pricings. And we'll also try to get you some competitors' pricings as well, so you'll see the advantage that we have.
Nice. I was just curious because we have for businesses, Rocky Mountain Power in Utah will do around 75,000 per unit, I think, for the rebates.
Oh wow, that's substantial. And I think that would be for level 3, correct, Terry?
Yes, for the level 3.
Yeah. So our cost is much lower than that amount. I can tell you that. I think sometimes our cost is sometimes the construction cost is more than the unit itself. And remember, our units are slightly different than the Tesla. The model that Tesla has employed is they have a converter sitting on the side somewhere, and they have this just a simple charger looking thing with 2 ports in it. Ours is a fully self-contained unit. So you don't need to provide a transformer somewhere remote to where the pumps are. Ours come with, so you just bring in that the 3-phase system into this charger, and everything's in there. And the way we are making our charger is modular. So where we put in the AC to DC converters, stacking them up. So in the future, let's say the cars are able to accept more charge, we can just simply add more of those AC to DC converters onto the existing charger without having to replace the whole charger.
Will we be getting these, the PowerPoint presentation to kind of get in front of people? I think it's got some great details.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have the copy of the webinar as well as the PDF PowerPoint available on our website, hopefully by tomorrow. And we'll send out an email to everyone informing that. Great question, guys. We have a few more minutes left. If there are any other questions or comments.
One thing I heard and saw on the slide was branding. So obviously on the PowerPoint, you have all Sarin on there, but essentially a developer, a hotel, whatever, could put their branding on the actual charger.
Yeah, so we can certainly do that. Whenever we do branding, or what happens is we've gone through the certification process, getting the Energy Star, the ETL, etc. So long as it doesn't, we'll have to co-brand it unless there's no rebate money, because whenever you apply for a rebate, they ask you what product you're installing. And because we've been approved by a multitude of utility companies with our model numbers, we can certainly put the branding, but then it will be almost like a co-branding where the model number remains Sarin model number so that they can apply for rebates.
Got it. I could see that question popping up with some potential users.
It already has, my friend.
Yeah, everybody wants to get their name out there however they can.
Yeah. White labeling is what we've done with some of our lighting products, and certainly open to this as well.
On the question?
Yeah, sure.
What's the situation with compatibility? We've heard rumors about, not rumors, but news about Tesla making their chargers compatible with everybody else. So how does that work? I mean, where is this going? Is Tesla, can you charge a Tesla in these chargers down the road? Or if you can, when would it be? Or where is this going? Because I have not been following it, obviously, as much as you guys have.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to let Jim answer that one. He's knee deep into this.
Yeah, we currently have what is called the CCS connectors on our chargers, which is the standard here for most vehicles in America outside of Tesla. The Tesla standard is the NACS, which they classify as North American charging standard. Right now, we do not have that ability to put that hardwired on our charger, but what we can do is we can put adapters that will fit into a Tesla. So we do have the ability, but eventually once, and the reason for that is because the Tesla components are not readily available for manufacturer. Once that frees up, my understanding is then we will be able to offer that as a hardwired option. But for now, it's just going to be an adapter.
Yeah. So I own a Tesla, and I do typically, you can, when you go to buy a Tesla, you for on Amazon, $40-50, you can buy an adapter that connects with the CCS to and converts it into NACS, and you just put in the adapter at the plug level, and then you attach it to your car.
That doesn't affect the speed at all by using that converter, or does it still stay the same with or without the converter as far as the output of the charger?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think it does anything with the speed. It's like going from a E26 adapter to the E13 adapter to change the bulb socket, and it's exactly that. It doesn't change anything in terms of the output. Good question, though.
And for answering that, because we do have projects, as you already know, that people have been waiting for a while. Yeah. And I have been telling them patiently to wait until Mr. Anand comes up with a solution. So hopefully now we can go launch and get these installed.
Yeah, let's do it.
Are we ready to go to customers now and start the process of 12 steps that you showed?
Yes, we have already started that. We wanted to test this process is in our hometown. So in Kansas and Missouri, we've signed up more than 30 hotels already, each maybe on average, maybe taking 3 or 4 of these level 2s. So we are ready and working with site visits, construction, all of that.
And we have level 3.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, I am so happy and glad that I was able to see some familiar faces and appreciate you all joining. Some of you I will see again.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
How are you, sir?
Go ahead. I am well, Ali. How are you?
Good. Okay. You said that Tony is from Georgia, right? Which part of Georgia?
He is just north of Jacksonville.
St. Simon's area.
Yes, St. Simon's.
That's in Georgia? Or in Florida?
Oh yeah, it's in Georgia, St. Simon's.
Okay, Inad bhai, what's the solution for rebate in Georgia? Georgia Power is giving?
Yeah, so Jim will be able to, so why don't we connect offline and we'll give you the whole rundown as to what the rebates are and what are some of the requirements for those rebates. Happy to sort of work with you.
And in this, you need at least power more than 220 or 480, right?
220. We are working with one solution, which is going to be amazing, which takes a single phase and we buy a unit that converts it into a 3-phase unit, which saves you a tremendous amount of cost when you're installing a level
Yeah,
3.
that's what, because to
Yeah.
install 480, it would be a big cost for the customers.
Yeah, so we are, in fact, in our own new office, as you guys know, you may have seen some emails. We just bought a new building and we're just establishing ourselves here. We are putting in a level 3, and we're going to be test modeling this device that we are installing that takes it from a single phase to a 3-phase with a 400 amp circuit, because the level 3 will require, believe it or not, at least 300 amps. That's a huge amount of power load.
Okay, I want to first create awareness to all my customers. So do you have anything like a 1 page or something? Or what I can do is I can send you my whole database of the email, all 400 people, we send them, at least 10% will respond, I think. And then
Okay.
1 or 2% will be interested. But since it's a new thing, a lot of people will talk about it.
Of course.
And then I have some people also which I'm thinking to talk. I just want to know if somebody just want to make a charging station, if they have a land, so it can be possible.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. I think it's possible. I think some of the things that we need to consider, especially for level 3 and even for level 2, is what is existing infrastructure there. So, I've seen some news about just EV gas stations or EV convenience store, where all it is EV chargers, and they are in the main artery in terms of the interstates where you see a lot of activity. But I think it takes a lot to bring that kind of power into a new space or a new
I
land.
understand
So,
that. Yeah.
so we just have to consider it on a case-by-case basis. But
Yeah.
we'll work with you in terms of marketing. We can create an email for you, which talks about, let's say, all of your customers in Georgia. We'll create a page for you or a email campaign that will identify how much rebate is
Yeah, I can
available,
send you, once
etc.
you're ready, I can send you my whole list. You can just send them, put my email ID, and let's see how many people responded, because
Yeah.
there is a lot of thing people will ask us,
Yeah.
because I don't know about the exact cost and what rebate will be. But it looks like this is a new, as you said, that how when the LED came, how was the people mindset,
Yeah.
So same thing. And future is electric, so this should be it should be a good thing, So
I
let's
agree. I agree.
hope we have
Yep.
been dealing in LED since 18 years now. So hopefully something. And I would like to involve my son into this.
Okay.
We'll just call it. So at least that should something good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll be in touch.
Absolutely.
I will be in touch with Mandy Bhai. So and then
Okay.
we see how we go from there.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you, Adi.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.
Okay. Any other questions? Fantastic.
Yeah, there will
So
be a lot of questions. We will ask you later.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That's what we are there for. We have an email address that we flashed on there. You know how to get hold of us. Well, we are 6 minutes over our time, and I apologize for that, everyone. But thank you so much for joining. And I hope to see you, some of you, at the Dallas Market Show. We have some very interesting products that we are introducing there as well, which will keep it under wraps until you see you there. But thank you again. Have a great afternoon and a great rest of the week. Happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you.
Same to you, sir. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.